Welcome to the Muse.
Where we talk about anything and everything creative, guys. And I'm your host, Nasim,
and
alongside with Ezra. And we have
Ari.
Thank you so much. And today we're going to be talking about the importance of parental guidance as well as support within art.
Yeah, so this is an interesting topic. I feel like all of us have different experiences with it. And I know of course we had we're all black, so it's there's some similarities that cross between. Mm-hmm. But I definitely love this question. I was excited about it.
I'm actually excited about it as well. And when you first gave me the idea, that's what we're gonna be talking about, I was like, dude, I don't care about talking about that at all. I'm just joshing. But no, I'm actually super excited. And I think that I have a very unique experience that not a lot of people have. And it's a very privileged one that I'm very blessed about anyway. So I definitely like to share. So tell us about yourself.
So I'm Ari. I'm 20. Music isn't my main focus, but it's definitely a very big passion of mine. Like Ezra, I'm always singing, I'm always doing something. I would say on and off in life. I'm always doing something musical, whether it's artistic, dancing, singing, writing, all different types of things. So yeah.
And what got you into music?
Well, I could sing, so I was kind of oh, cool.
I feel you.
But even when I was little, when I used to be at my grandparents' house and my dad was in the basement, one of the rooms was basically a studio. Yeah. So in a sense, I was kind of surrounded by it in some type of aspect. And then I'm Caribbean, so always Caribbean music playing in the house. So that's kind of my thing.
That's fire. That's fire. And do you think that your family gave you a lot of support when it came to your creative passions?
I'd say yes and no, not really. In the terms of just enjoying music, sure, but if it came across as if that was my main thing that I was pursuing in terms of a career, I would say no. And I guess it's kind of that Caribbean way of thinking oh, you gotta be a doctor, nurse, or type of thing just to kind of be successful in life, when it's there's other ways. Yeah. But I feel that's very common for just not even Caribbean, just being a black person in general. And maybe it's just because of our history or whatever, but it's if you're not one of the things that people need on a daily basis, then you're not seen as valued.
I mean, I definitely feel I know a lot of times it's you feel kind of sour towards your parents for that, but I feel for me, I understood it at the same time, because I know they just want you to be safe. They just want you to be ready for the world and feel they won't need you anymore. So it's understandable, but at the same time, it's hard to let go of your kids. So it's I know growing up though, I had a little bit more support. My dad was a photographer, he did producing, my mom was a dancer, and I would say, their careers are up and down, so it's not they can really, it's not they had a 100% career that was if you do this, you'd be good. But they were supported enough for me to want to pursue that, even if I didn't know what that was.
That's interesting. And I find it interesting how you said that, we're black and stuff like that, so they want us to do something stable, especially in income. But it's just so interesting that especially black creativity and black art plays just a huge part of just American as well as the world, what we do within, it pushes creativity forward.
Yeah.
I definitely agree with that, because there's a lot of alternative genres and stuff, and not a lot of people know that black people kind of started it, so then it becomes a whole thing when it's say another nation kind of pushes it more. Mm-hmm. In reality, we started it, but just because it's not our focus now doesn't mean it wasn't in the past.
Facts, and especially you look at people like Billie Holiday, she's definitely around that slavery, or definitely, I'm not fully sure, but she's in that back in the day, in my solitude.
Oh, okay.
No.
Black.
Billie, I don't think she was back, but not back.
She was that back? But she was definitely segregation though back.
Yeah, but I don't know about slavery.
Bro, actually you might be right. Bro, but it's still
segregation for sure.
Segregation for sure. And even at that time, that type of music. But it was a lot of people even in that slavery time, that blew up,
But Billie Holiday is very controversial. I mean, I feel a lot of famous black careers are very controversial because they always want to taint them, because they are a big thing in history, and you know, it gives motivation for young people of color to be like, oh, I want to be a creator too. So that's why I feel like they're also tainted a lot. You'll never really know the true story.
Yeah,
but I feel like that's
and
an
they stole
interesting
from a
point.
lot of, like, you know, black artists and things like that. But, you know, like, parental guidance.
What's his name?
He just had a
Elvis.
movie. Yeah,
Oh,
Elvis.
Okay, yeah, I literally was thinking about him because, like, I remember. I don't know if a lot of people like watched the movie. But, like,
I didn't.
Okay, I watched it.
I don't know any Elvis song. Like, bro, Elvis is so overrated. Can you ask any white person
No,
an Elvis
that's not
song?
even-
They won't
yeah,
be able
he's-
to tell you anything.
He didn't steal it. I think he gave credit. Don't quote me. I'm not sure. But, like, he definitely got that from, like, going to, like, one of the jazz clubs. And she was like, you ain't nothing but a dog. And then, like, I feel like that's also where, like, Doja had the inspiration to kind of, like, use that. And also, like, if you listen to the lyrics, she kind of, like, turns the song, like, kind of back on him. And that's where it came from. And then, like, also, it was, like, a thing where, I believe because everybody kind of knew, low-key, that it was from, like, a black creator.
Yeah.
When he started, like, promoting the song, they tried to make it, like, how do I say this nicely? Basically, they try to white it up, you know?
Yeah. They definitely try to white up a lot of, you know, old singers.
That's a new term. White it up.
White it up for sure. But let's get back on topic. So, like, for me personally, I would definitely say, like, I had a lot of, like I just say, like, I had a lot of major support from, like, my parents and stuff, especially my mom primarily, and, like, my grandma and stuff, where she would, like, keep me in art classes, keep me in just photography classes, dance classes. Like, it was just essential. You know, she was big into the arts. Like, I never played sports growing up. Like, and you can tell by, like, my frail frame. But, you know, my mom made sure I stayed into creative things, you know, and I'm very grateful for that as well. But I find it interesting because I was thinking about it when you asked the question. I was like, well, does parents find creativity to be essential? Because we know a lot of times in public schools, especially like urban public schools, the first thing they take out is the art department and stuff like that. So, you know, with the taxpayers' dollar, do you think we or, like, the parents value art within the classroom?
I mean, honestly, I feel like school systems should support art because I feel like it like I know you're asking about parents as well, but I definitely want to speak on the school thing. I think they should support art because art is not just a means to an end. It's like it does a lot. Like, if, for instance, it helps with your mental health. It helps with problem solving. It helps with just, like, just enjoying it, like, every day, a moment at a time, because I feel like art opens up your mind to new ideas and lets you become relaxed and present in the world comparative to, you know, other things. So facts. I do feel like a lot of times, like, people say, oh, it's not as useful, you're not going to use it. I mean, how many times have you used fucking, like, how many times have you used your like English class literature
Pythagorean theorem, white,
like, dude, I don't even know what a Pythagorean is.
That's the only thing I don't even know if that's what y equals mx plus b, whatever that is.
But the only time I know is the only reason why I know that shit is because of the meme. I wish I was a hypothesis. but
I definitely agree with that, because I feel like you're right. That's one of, like, the first things to, like, go away. And it's just also, like, or if, like, somebody would see their child is too focused on it, like, just in, like, in a more traditional family, they're like, oh, like, why aren't you as worried about this? But sometimes, like, that, for a lot of kids, especially now, that's, like, an outlet for them. Like, not everybody's good at communicating. Not everybody can, like, really put their thoughts to words. But in art and music and all different types, and even in dance, like, sometimes you could get, like, breakthroughs with that. But nobody, like, sees that.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like, even in school, like, they'll say, like, oh, somebody's doing bad at school. The first thing taken away is, like, oh, you're in this program, you're in this. Oh, you love this. Yeah. It's restricted now because you're not doing as well in other things, but why not find a different way?
And it's so difficult to find something you're passionate about in the first place. You know, especially, like, if we look at low-income areas, you know, the main thing they should be having is time to express, ways to express, and to be able to dive deep into themselves to understand things that they could be passionate about within the creative realm, because a lot of, like, kids, especially from low-income areas, never really had the ability as well as opportunity to create, and they don't even think that could even be a part of them. So they, like, close themselves off towards that, and that's unfortunate. And I know that they have it's a lot of creativity and suffering, you know, and unfortunately they got to go through that, but they have a lot of opportunity to create beautiful things.
Yeah. Speaks volumes.
For sure. For sure.
I mean, as much as I hate to say it, like, I know growing up I had my own, like, forms of suffering, and I do admit that actually drove my art a lot further. And I feel like I said, my parents are supportive, But sometimes, like, my mom always comes to me, like, worried about my art subject matters or worried about what I'm trying to illustrate and share with the world. And like I said before on other clips and past podcast episodes, like, I can only share what I experience and share how I'm feeling. And I know, like, as a parent, it's hard to see your kid go through pain and suffering. But I definitely think that even if they are, you should be able to support your kid to help them get through those stages. Even if the outlet is creativity. Like, there's so many other outlets out there that someone could fall, like, especially a black young man like me, to fall into growing up where I grew up. So I definitely feel like it is a really important thing to practice.
I would also say you're super self-made. Me knowing you personally, you're super self-made, because where I had my mom kind of like hold my hand, like I told her I love something, and she found the resources to put me into that program or whatever, you never really had that same opportunity. Like, you love something, nobody was gonna put you into that thing, and you still made that thing yours. You know what I mean?
I feel like it's like a mix though. Like,
it is a mix.
When I grew up, like, I did dance.
Yeah.
I did sculpting, this and acting. I did a bunch of different things. And essentially, when I did say I wanted to do art, you know, they supported me. It's not like they really like worked so hard to find me a mentor, but I had, like, you know, family friends that were artists, and I would just be around there. So
okay,
I would say ultimately yes, they did still push me in the direction, but I would say that I did by myself trying to find those avenues to create the life I wanted to live.
100%.
Would you say, like, their artistic connections kind of also, like, helped it be a little bit easier for you to kind of, like, fall into that route, or, like, in terms of, like, finding mentors and, like...
Well, I would say it's kind of different. Like, I would think, like, growing up, of course, from school, I would say, oh, I want to do this, I want to do that. But with my parents around and what they did, I got to a point where, like, I didn't really know what an artist was. I just thought that was just a way of living. Like, I was like, oh, like, if you're not creating, what else are you doing, dude?
Right.
So that's why I am how I am today. But how do you feel like the way you're raised dictated your, like, what you pursued in life?
I feel like I had, like, a mix between strict and then maybe, like, a little bit lenient, but, like, strict at the same time. And I'd say, like, even from, like, both sides. So it really just depended on, like, the family member. Like, I'd have something, oh, why don't you do music all the time? Like, you have da-da-da-da. And I'm like, I love music, but maybe that's not what I want to pursue, like, forever.
Yeah.
But then also it'd be the other side, like, oh, music doesn't really get you anywhere. Like, you could do it for fun. Like, for example, my grandmother, love she down. If she ever see this, sorry. But like, anytime, like, I'd be humming or anything, she's like, oh, why are you more focused on music? Like, I'm just chilling. Like, I'm just vibing. Like, this is kind of like my safe space. So it's like, for you to automatically assume or, like, already try to beat down something that I never even brought to you is kind of, like, weird, because it's like, hey, you know this is something I love, but I never said, oh, this is what I want to do with my life. But you're kind of already combating it before it's even a thought. So it's kind of like, even if I were to ever want to do it...
It's like you're cutting roots before they even grow.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So it's like... But then also, here's where it doesn't make sense. Because it's like, I won't touch music for a while. And she'd be like, oh, why don't you ever play your guitar anymore? Why don't you ever do this? But then it's like, on the other hand, when I am doing those things, like, oh, why are you more... You know, so it's like, it will never add up.
You gotta do it to satisfy yourself first, you know, especially when you get to the age where it's just like, you know, we can want people and desire people to do the things that we want them to do, but at the end of the day, we just gotta, if they show us what they're gonna do, we just gotta believe them at the end of the day. And I just would think about, after hearing what both of y'all was saying, like, I honestly think that all people, no matter what age or whatever, should have a creative vice. You know, how you say, like, to get through things like mental health or whatever. You should have a creative vice, something you know that's yours, something you know you're passionate about, something that is a project for yourself that you know brings you joy, you know? And I think that's very essential, honestly. And I would think about, like, what communities do you think brings creativity to children? Because I thought church. When I thought about it myself, I thought church, because, you know, a lot of churches bring music and dance to especially low-income areas to allow us, a lot of, let's say, black, or just not just black, but just any type of person in the church to, like, you know, learn and grow within, like, music and stuff like that. Do you ever explore music through church?
Not particularly, but I'll say that, like, I think, yes, sometimes they do introduce it, but, like, the way that they do it is, like, sometimes restrictive, depending, because it'll be like, oh, if it's not what they agree with, it's like, oh, why are you
Like with the choir and things
yeah,
like that.
so why are you interested? Like, and I feel like that's also something that's been like portrayed in like a lot of black movies. Because for some people, it's a reality. It's like, you're interested in music, da da da. You're doing it in your church or whatever, or like community group. And it's like if it's not, yeah, because like I remember even like back in high school, like for like they were trying to like push the arts just a little bit more. Like maybe it was like my last year, and then they did, but it was like more on a gospel level. But
yeah.
even then, they'd be like, "Oh, we take song suggestions," and then when people would try that, they'd be like, "Oh, no."
Yeah.
So it was like I'm saying, like they'll produce it and like they'll bring it, but then they'll also have some restrictions on it. But it's like you're trying to appeal to all the massive students, but you're not going to reach that if you're putting so much restrictions on how they express themselves.
So you think the art is too restricted to even be able to attach yourself to it in some ways?
Yeah, sometimes, because like you'll appeal somebody with the idea, and then when they're there, it's not what you promoted.
I see. Because we know in BSA a lot of just a lot of music students in general, they came from a church background, especially a lot of the singing, vocal kids as well. And I think that me seeing that, like the restriction, I definitely see because like they don't really have that much creativity in my opinion, because they're all like set within one genre that they probably fell in love with, but. It's definitely a lot of restrictions what you're talking about.
I mean, I definitely feel like, just in the creative arts, in any school program, it's going to be very classical, a lot of Europeanism. And I feel like when you go to school and say you go to school to be a classically trained artist, you're gonna be doing like a lot like still lives, figurative work, and it's not gonna let you like force like you're gonna do traditional oil paintings, charcoal drawings. It's because we both, we're in an art program, so we understand that they're going to try to push you to do, like, the most classical stuff, which I have mixed feelings about, because I feel like sometimes those classic traditional roots of where, I guess, that form of arts come from can help you build a strong foundation to keep growing. But I do feel like there needs to be more emphasis on trying to let a student grow and figure out things for themselves.
You think we got into that a little bit too late within our school year?
Yeah, because, like, in art history class, for instance.
Yeah.
Bro, like, there's so many illustrators I'm into. Like, we already discussed, like, I like Kim Jong-gi, I like...
That you
I
never
like
touched
Mobius,
on.
I like James Jean.
We never touched on any of those people.
Yes, never. And a lot of times, like, maybe Black History Month, we were introduced to, like, 3 Black artists.
Yeah.
And then also, it's just, like, for instance, James Jean is a big artist. Like, the first person to tell me about that is one of my teachers, Kat. And she was like, hey, you probably like this artist. So I just think it's interesting that... in our art history program, I feel like they want to make it so that this is the only art history there is, and it's just like it's very classical, it's very like structured.
It's interesting you say that though, bro, because you don't really like Montessori like that, like a Montessori type school setup.
No,
and a Montessori school setup, in my opinion, is fully liberating in what you're saying that you never had the opportunity to have.
I feel like it's too loose.
You think it's too loose, so you think it's a middle ground?
I think there needs to be a middle ground. Okay. Because that's one thing, I feel like I think discipline is important. Mm-hmm. And I feel like letting you able to grow, it's like, all right, when you grow a plant, you have a pot, right?
Right.
Obviously, due to the pot, it gives you certain restrictions to grow. But if you get the right pot, it still gives enough time to flourish and also control it in a sense.
Yeah.
So I feel like you do need to let the kid, like, figure things on himself and grow in itself and introduce more variables, but I still think there needs to be a certain structure to it.
I don't really agree respectfully, just because I feel that you now I agree with you if it's like somebody that didn't start in that type of setup being just thrown into that stuff. You know what a Montessori school is, by the way, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So like being thrown into that type of setup, but if you was raised properly in a free range thinking type of environment, you can see how a lot of those Montessori kids, especially ones that do it correctly, very like flourishes within that community.
Yeah.
As well as, having discipline. A lot of people when they get in that situation, they don't have no discipline, so they get no knowledge. But when you go into that situation and you go in there with discipline, with something that you want to obtain, which is knowledge or, creativity, whatever, you
gain
get
that discipline, though, right?
But I feel
from
like
other means.
What you're, like, more talking about, I feel like that also speaks to, like, the lack of diversity in just schools that will just never be solved. Mm-hmm. Because it's not just about, like, Black artists or like if you really were like into the diversity and the variety, I feel like that would never become an issue. Like you just said, Black History Month, 3 Black artists. Why is it only when Black History Month arrives that you get to learn about these artists?
Right.
And it shouldn't be about just, oh, it's this appreciation month or this appreciation month. It should just be a part of just introducing all these different things, and that's how your students are going to find their passion, even if it's somewhat structured and not as loose.
But like I would refract from that is like, I feel like, but you gain discipline somewhere.
Yeah.
I feel like there has to be discipline somewhere, regardless. So I grew up very loosely. Like I moved from home to home, and sometimes I had my siblings with me, sometimes I didn't. Sometimes I lived by myself, sometimes I lived with a family friend. So I didn't really have that. I had my grandma eventually when I got older, which was very disciplined, but I didn't have that super discipline when I was younger. So throwing me into a Montessori situation, I feel like didn't help for me because it was too open.
Yeah.
And I grew up without any direction.
Right. And I came up in a homeschooling background, as well as I struggled with reading when I was in Montessori as well. So like, I'm coming, with a loose community already, but I made my most reading progress when I was in Montessori, you feel me? So just like, basically what I'm trying to say is, it's your background, and, I like how Montessori didn't rush you.
Yeah.
You can like make a huge stride in a month if you put the work in for it. And I think Montessori allowed that person, whoever that individual was, to make that stride, as well as, it made the, like when that kid went to that classroom, she got to learn about whatever they wanted to learn about. If that could be a black artist, an Asian artist, whatever artist from whatever type of background, they can learn that. They really spoke up about it. And I think a lot of times, like, parents need to be more involved with, if they don't know the information, we can learn together and have fun doing that.
Like more hands-on type of approach.
Yeah.
Their interests.
Like, I don't got, if I ever child, like, I don't have to know anything about, for example, we did pottery, but I don't know much about pottery. But if they said they was really into pottery, best believe we would learn together. I'll be knowing how to make a bowl perfect or how to make a cup perfect. We had a unit in that, but we would make that, if that's what that person want to make their life, I would make sure that I try to make it a part of mine,
Put the effort until they feel like they're supported.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. 100%.
I agree. But, wait, so what would you say is, like, your main, like, artistic focus?
Primarily, I would say I give the most hours to photography, but as well as, like, printmaking and stuff like that throughout high school.
Printmaking.
Printmaking is fun. It's very fun.
It's very hands. It takes, like, a lot of... Really? I loved it. Like, even the carving was, like, so tedious and so annoying.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just loved it.
But as well as, like, I would say I dive into, like, just all things I'm inspired by. Like, I've made music before. I freaking, of course, drawn and did painting and stuff, because me and Ezra went to Baltimore School for Arts together and stuff. So, like, I've done a lot, but personally, I feel as though everybody got to go on that journey when you find what inspires you and then be able to produce that work that you want to produce independently of whatever institution, like you personally, build that.
I love that.
You have any songs out? Ezra, let me hear one. You posted a clip. You posted a clip, and I really, really enjoyed it. It was
did?
Look, your vocals was great. It was phenomenal. The instrumental was amazing as well. And I mean, I'm excited to hear more, bro. You got any like an EP,
soon.
like a project in the works?
I wouldn't say project. I'm kind of taking as my approach to music is because a lot of times, like, I'll get into it and then I'll just have a period where it's just like nothing. So like I feel like I don't want to push myself or like pressure myself to like go too crazy, but like when it comes to music, like do what I feel.
Yeah.
So like that project that you heard was like in that moment I was just like, oh, I'm feeling this. Like, let's go crazy. And then that was that, and I love it. That's like probably one of my favorites that I'm working on right now.
And where do you pull, from when it comes to writing?
I'd say a little bit of everything. Like, so some personal experience, some kind of like putting myself in somebody else's position, or like even like just stuff that I know through people that's like kind of going through it. Like, I'm not gonna sit here and write a song about somebody else's situation,
right?
That's kind of crazy. But like just like knowing, like just like seeing how you are in like that headspace and kind of like, okay, how would I kind of approach this, or like, damn, like a lot of people go through this, how would they feel, or like how would I like kind of approach it? And that's kind of like something that I do with music. I'd say majority of the time it's kind of like a little bit of personal experience, and I'm like, damn, that hit.
I feel you.
But yeah,
I feel you. No, I actually love that. I love that. And who's like one of your favorite artists right now to listen to?
Right now, I love me some Leon Thomas, some Josh Levi.
Giveon.
Yeah, you said two people. I know Giveon. I don't know. I think I know Leon Thomas, but not who's the last person?
Josh Levi.
Oh, Josh Levi. I'm gonna tap into bro.
He's definitely like, I feel like underappreciated, but he's kind of getting like that, spark that he deserved. Who else? What's her name again? Jasmine Sullivan. I love her. I love her.
She got what's that song? Is it P? It's what's it?
BPW.
BPW. My days. That song is so BPW, bro. I be singing it like I got one.
I don't know that song.
That's me up. Oh, did you make me wanna back it up?
Talk that shit.
Hey,
that song's hard.
But I don't listen to music like that.
Yeah, I know.
I love music. I love music, honestly.
Like, I really, really do. Like, even though I'd be like, damn, sometimes, like, it gets on my nerves. Like, no matter what you're going through, there's a song for it.
Do you ever pull from anything besides music? Like, do you draw your main inspiration from music, or do you find other crafts that inspire you?
Like, just on a daily basis, like, to, like, write. Like, I'll write, like, just write. Just to write. Like, not even songwriting. Like, I'll write stuff out. Or, like...
But have you ever, like, watched a movie, or, like...
Oh, and, like, pulled, like...
Or, like, a look at a painting or something, you're like, oh...
Oh, yeah.
A movie for sure.
A movie, definitely.
For sure, bro.
I wouldn't really say painting per se. Like, I'll, like, draw, like... You know how, like, sometimes people describe something? Like, sometimes I do that, like, in, like, a song. But, like, not per se, like, oh, just, like, a whole song based off that one painting it had me. No, nothing like that.
I feel you. I mean, me personally, like... See, I be capping when I write some music.
I know!
I be lying. None of that happened to me.
But sometimes you gotta do it like that.
Popping drugs? Never.
But sometimes drugs is just like an idea to help you put the listener in the feeling that you feel, you know?
But it's not even your feeling. Like, I feel like a lot of rappers do that today. Like, but here's the thing. I love when they're honest about it. Like, there's this rapper, I forgot his name. But, like, he's telling you, he be like, bro, I never touched a drug in my life. I don't know about no shooting, never held a gun, never did none of this. But I'm a cat. And he tells, I love that.
What's name said that too?
What's his name?
Oh, he's skinny. Yeah. Lil Tecca.
Yeah, I think, this is
Lil Tecca. There we go.
Yeah. But he lets you know, he's like, y'all, I ain't never
had
this.
that call.
But it's
like,
for the vibes, though.
But literally, but I love that. Like,
hell yeah, be honest.
Like, even if you're lying, there's nothing about being honest about your craft.
Yeah.
It's like, people appreciate you more for it. Like,
Facts. And I had the last question, bro. You know, like you said, art, like making music like a hobby for you. So how do you make sure that your hobby is being fulfilled?
Like, what do you mean, like, on a day-to-day basis?
On a day-to-day basis. Like, you know, when it's like, for example, I haven't done photography, or I haven't, like, even tried to write a song in a long time.
You
like,
get an itch?
Like, you get an itch.
Yeah.
I know Ezra, he's a crackhead.
Oh, I know.
If you haven't drawn for a minute, bro, this man is having withdrawals.
I'm sorry. Oh, let me not expose him on the pad. Never mind. Never mind. I had to think about it for a second. Never mind. But Ezra will put out marker and go crazy on anything. But
so how do you get over those creative withdrawals?
I'll kind of just like put on my headphones. Like, I don't think there's any time, like, unless I'm like physically doing something, I always have headphones in. So it's like I'm always listening to music. So I feel like I don't really get those withdrawals because I'm always like
you're
there.
always getting inspired.
In some sense of
so
the word.
So you actually enjoy the inspiration part of it too.
Yeah.
I ain't a cat. If I get inspired, I get even more itchy. I'm like, oh,
hell yeah, bro. Hell yeah.
No, but I'm the person like that. I will grab my phone and like I'll be like at work and I'll be like.
I do the same thing, bro, and then I go back to it and be like, bro, what the fuck was I even talking about?
Oh, okay. You never like say like you just like sleeping at somebody's house or like you just with company or whatever, but you're like, yo, man, everybody sleep. Let me not, and I just pull out the. I'm like, and you listen to the next morning.
Yeah.
And you don't understand nothing you said.
You don't understand
because you're trying to be so low.
Right, and it's like, damn, bro.
Now it's like,
you kind
damn.
of botched it because like you know you probably did something like you can pull
Fire.
from.
Was that even good?
Point.
Like,
yeah.
No, but you hear the idea, but you can't remember none of the lyrics, and you know in that moment it was.
I
just
ain't cap
hitting.
though. Me and I see like back when we used to be more heavy in writing music. We didn't say any words. You'd be like, it
was all about the melody.
Yeah, it's just about the melody.
But
the melody is so important.
It's the most important thing for me. Me personally, I don't care about words or anything. I care about melody.
Well, because he's not lyric.
Why you doing it like that?
I don't care about words or nothing.
No, but honestly, sometimes it don't even be the words that capture people to the song. Like, it really do just be the melody. But then sometimes if the melody lacks, it's really the words. So
Real
it's just
talk.
It's
Real
always
talk.
just gonna be.
You know, it's about balance.
Yeah.
But that makes up the episode, guys. Thank you so much for watching another episode of The Muse, and make sure to come back next week.
Can we get one more?
What did I do again?
The Muse.
The Muse.
What she said. Thank you so much, guys.
All right, bye, y'all.